We all have a natural desire to exert some level of control over our lives. To secure that control, many ambitious people study human behavior to navigate office politics and negotiate their way to the top. For decades, the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene has served as a dense 3,000-year historical manual detailing exactly how to achieve that dominance. Greene built his theoretical foundation while studying at the University of California, Berkeley. He followed that with a degree in classical studies from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, digging deep into the calculated maneuvers of ancient courts and empires. Those historical theories were then tested against modern reality during his career as a writer, surviving the cutthroat environment of the Hollywood movie industry. He emerged with a highly synthesized, amoral guide to human interaction. The lingering question is whether the average person should actually put it into practice. Clinical psychologists have a categorization for the traits required to wield this kind of power naturally. They call it the Dark Triad: Machiavellianism, Narcissism, and Psychopathy. This Venn diagram maps out the 48 laws of power on the left and the clinical traits of the Dark Triad on the right. Where they overlap in the middle is what researchers call functional manipulation, the strategic, calculated use of dark traits to get exactly what you want. Time is finite. You could spend yours learning how to manipulate competitors, or you could spend that exact same bandwidth on evidence-based therapy to simply increase your own baseline happiness. You must decide your posture. Use it as an offensive weapon, deploy it as a defensive shield, or pivot toward mental optimization. Power itself has no morality. However, because each approach requires a different psychological investment, the path you choose will dictate the specific trade-offs you eventually have to live with. Let's evaluate the first option, the ambitious climber treating Greene's laws and the Dark Triad as an active, offensive playbook. Operating on offense in a social or professional setting is inherently destructive. You are actively breaking down someone else's position to secure your own. To execute this strategy, you must constantly mask your true intentions, strictly limit what you say, and cultivate an air of absolute unpredictability. As a result, you build an intimidating aura. Competitors are forced to react to your moves rather than making their own, granting you immediate leverage in negotiations. This matrix maps the offensive strategy against the toll it takes. To secure that strategic leverage, you have to accept a deliberate depletion of your personal trust. That depletion is the source of a constant paranoia. When your career is built on masking your goals, you lose the capacity to form authentic, high-trust relationships. Playing offense might secure you a promotion, but you will arrive at the top entirely alone. The second option is the defensive navigator. Here, you consume the exact same material, but strictly as a defense manual. You study Machiavellian tactics not to use them, but to recognize the exact moment a boss or colleague tries to deploy them against you. For example, Law 14 advises posing as a friend to work as a spy. Knowing this allows you to spot a coworker fishing for your insecurities under the guise of casual venting. This approach neutralizes manipulation early. It allows you to set rigid, effective boundaries against toxic actors before they can do lasting damage. Our comparison matrix identifies the variable for this path as security. By focusing on observation, you gain the ability to neutralize threats before they scale. The trade-off here is a creeping hypervigilance. If you spend enough time looking for traps, you start treating normal, innocent interactions as calculated threats. You will successfully protect your career boundaries, but if left unchecked, the cynicism will poison your worldview. The final option is the internal optimizer. This path abandons power dynamics entirely, choosing instead to pursue evidence-based psychological health. Federal organizations like the National Institute of Mental Health spend billions on a different metric for success: clinical efficacy. Their goal is to validate treatments that improve quality of life through standardized science. Instead of plotting against coworkers, you invest in cognitive behavioral therapy to systematically challenge your own distorted thinking patterns and regulate your emotions. Recent meta-analyses confirm this works. Patients show measurable, sustained improvements in their baseline functioning, sleep quality, and overall life satisfaction. Looking at the final column of our matrix, the evidence-based route requires internal work to yield genuine well-being. The limitation is that CBT focuses entirely on your internal state. it does nothing to alter the external reality of a toxic work environment. Therapy will give you a healthier mind, but it will not stop a manipulative manager from trying to steal your credit. Your choice depends entirely on the specific friction you face right now. Selecting the right strategy begins with identifying your primary friction. If targeted and undermined by toxic peers, your immediate step is the defense manual. If struggling with anxiety or baseline happiness, route to CBT and evidence-based practices. If you demand ruthless advancement at any social cost, choose the playbook. For the internal optimizers, genuine well-being comes from ignoring the power struggles and doing the proven clinical work on yourself. For the defensive navigators, study the darkness so you can spot the predators, but refuse to internalize their tactics. And for the ambitious climbers, playing offense means making a brutal trade. You are bartering your psychological ease for leverage. Greene's 47th law in the book is know when to stop. Applying too much pressure inevitably destroys the entire mechanism. Whether you choose manipulation, defense, or therapy, the psychological tools you practice every day will shape the mind you have to live in.